Cam Newton is officially unattached, the number one overall pick of the 2000 NFL Draft, the most successful quarterback in the history of the Carolina Panthers, is no longer part of the team. They make it official, releasing the former MVP after trying to get a trade done with multiple teams. It just was not happening. So the Panthers felt their hands were tied. They had to move on. They didn't want it to get any messier than it already was. And as we know, as has been made very clear by what we've seen in the actions of the new management and head coach, they are looking for a fresh start that does not include Cam Newton. So he is now a free agent. According to ESPN, Newton took and passed a physical on Monday, which is good news, Greg Rosenthal, as he now hits the open market. And now the question begins, how long does he stay on the open market?
Yeah, the fact there was no trade market for him makes me think he could be out there in free agency for a while until players and life in general starts going back to normal and they can, like, a team can visit with him, because the fact that Kyle Allen had more trade value than Cam Newton among Panthers quarterbacks is one of the most surprising things, like, I think that's happened since we've started doing this show. And maybe I'm an optimist, but I do believe there's a real chance for Cam Newton to have a good second act of his career. I think a lot of the things that are happening in the NFL in terms of scheme and the way offense is played fits Cam Newton's strength. He's only 30 years old. The shoulder injury is the bigger concern. It's 2 years ago now, though. And like I can imagine him having a totally resurgent act on a different team in 2020.
I found the semantics of this whole exercise a little baffling. He was given permission to seek a trade he did not want. He didn't want a trade, but, and then he had no interest there. He was unable to drive interest because of the uncertainty. Nobody wanted to pay $19-20 million for him at a time when he hasn't played well since his since his shoulder surgery. Then he had the foot surgery. So there's so much uncertainty there. And to me, the Chargers make so much sense, but they seem to be fine with Tyrod Taylor. So I think unless the Chargers go get him, he's going to be a guy who's fighting for a job in training camp.
Wes, to your point, and you said the mechanics of the trade were the mechanics of the situation were a little odd. I agree. When Cam Newton gets permission to seek a trade, is that how this works? I thought the teams work with other teams for a trade. Cam Newton was his management was going to be reaching out to other teams saying, "Hey, trade for me." I don't quite even understand that.
That's an olive branch. They would allow Cam Newton to go somewhere that he wanted to go. I mean, that does happen pretty frequently versus them shipping Cam Newton to a netherworld like situation that he'd hate.
I guess my point, maybe it's just a matter of just parsing of words, but wouldn't you work with your current team and then that team would reach out to a team you were interested in? The whole thing felt like a farce from the start. And Cam was obviously angry about it because he had no interest in doing any of that.
Sometimes, an agent does drive the entire trade process, and then they bring it to the team that they have, and and they work together. Sometimes it's the other way. I heard before the scouting combine that the Panthers were trying to trade Cam Newton way before they ever put this statement out there, and that they had no bites. And when they put this statement out there, to me, it was an admission that we're probably going to cut him. We know no one really wants him. This is our last Hail Mary as free agency starts to see if we can scare up any interest when the market might be changing a little bit and that we can get something for it. They didn't play it well, but ultimately no other teams I believe them that no other teams wanted him, or else we would have seen a trade. Like, every team out there just wanted him to be a free agent and deal with him then.
I mean, again, I feel like the Bears have selected a lesser starter with way more injury mystery like scenarios in Nick Foles than Cam Newton. And you at this point, if Cam Newton, because there's too many quarterbacks, has to look for a backup job, I think he's just a tough guy to have as a backup, because your average NFL fan is going to want to see the minute trouble strikes Cam Newton on the field. And if that weren't the case, if there weren't a lot of that kind of potential drama tug on Cam Newton to put him out there, I could look at a team like the Bills, where you have Sean McDermott, who knows Cam Newton, right? They've got Matt Barkley behind a guy in Josh Allen, who is still a bit of a wild card. Cam Newton is not Josh Allen, but they have some similar traits and do some similar things on offense. I mean, there are landing spots, but I just think it's a lot for a coaching staff to handle if he's your number 2, because he's still, to Greg's point, I think has a whole second part of his career and is an alluring athlete. How do you hold him down if you're in trouble in week 6?
Do it, John Elway. Do it. You're the
Broncos.
team.